Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. We got a question a while back. It says April 18th on my phone, so maybe that's when I got this question from our friend Aaron. Aaron is double ace. Aaron, we've talked about on the channel a few times. Wrote a book of poetry for his sister who was killed in a car accident, and does the Diner Discussions podcast, which I've been on like 4 years ago, 3 years ago. God, it's been a long time. He wrote a very, very long post or email. I don't remember how I got this. I think it was an email. And he essentially is talking about, he was born in 90, so his introduction to Batman was Batman and Robin. And then the Christian Bale stuff came out, and then Ben Affleck and whatever. And so he asked his dad that same question, and of course his dad said Adam West. But he said, you know, that was his Batman, but he'd have to go with Michael Keaton, the 80s Batman. And so his question was, now I'll read, with a multi-generational franchise like Batman or James Bond, does the age you were when it came to the franchise and what order you were exposed to it something have an influence on your attachment to it? Have you ever went down this particular rabbit hole? I have. I've had this discussion quite a bit. My introduction to Batman was from the 20s or 30s. If you go, I used to love watching AMC back when AMC was a thing that actually showed traditional American movie classics. And shortly after I got out of school, they would show these old Batman serials from like the 30s. These were things that ran, or 40s, I don't know. They were old. If you don't know what serials were then, they were these little like 5 to maybe even 15-minute episodes of a show that would run before a movie. And they would come out like once a week or something. That's how we got the idea of serializing things. Like, that's where it comes from, these serials. And they had these old Batman serials with this kind of, you know, the dude's body shape was similar to Adam West, like not muscular, but, you know, well built. And it was like, you know, people in fedoras. And I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And I fell in love with those serials before I learned about the Adam West Batman, which of course I watched, and then of course my movie Batman would be Michael Keaton. That was like, I had movie posters and toys and all the stuff from that Batman. And so I haven't seen any of the newer Batman films since Batman and Robin. I think Batman and Robin was the last Batman movie I've watched. And it's a matter of, for me, I was comics first. Like, I learned about Batman as a child through the comic books first. Maybe the animated series. Well, that was 90s. Keaton had already come and gone. I don't know. But to me, Batman is a character in the comic books. And the Batman that is the character on the TV or in the movies is nothing compared to my comic book Batman. They're generally over-sensationalized, too broody, they all suck. None of them are good. So that franchise in particular, I just don't like the movie adaptations because I don't think they're very good. You know, a Killing Joke would be... I would point to it as being like the Batman movie that I would say, but it's animated, right? It's the thing. So, is that the right movie I'm thinking of? Whatever. Somebody will tell me. As far as Bond goes, I don't know that for like. Okay, we'll go with Star Wars. Let's pick Star Wars. Star Wars was the focus of my everything when I was a child. And so I watched the original 3 Star Wars. I did not get to see any of them in the theaters. I was too young for that. I was born in 79. So, but I saw them every time they came on TV. I watched them So that was a few times a year they would be rerun, and I would watch them. And then I got the VHSs when I could and watched them. I loved those movies. But I can tell you without a doubt, if you ask me what my favorite Star Wars film is, it is absolutely Rogue One. The best Star Wars film I've ever seen. From front to back, it's just a fantastic movie. It's not really even about the Star Wars, right? It's just about good characters, good storyline, good everything, good visuals. Like, it's just fantastic. But that doesn't take away my love of that series, the original three movies. The episodes 1 through 3 I thought were pretty horrific. There were particular scenes that I wanted to see that you surmised because you knew the story of Anakin. And like the third movie, I've never seen episode 3. I've watched the end sequence. I've watched the creation of Vader. That's it. The rest of the movie is, I don't need to see it. It's just absolute garbage, right? I have no interest in it. But I know people that though those movies were their childhood, and you're right. Like for them, those are the Star Wars movies, and the old stuff is old and hokey and weird. And I can look at the old stuff and go, it is old and hokey and weird, and that's why I like it, right? Because I reminisce about it or whatever it might be. But I also really enjoyed the new movies. Like I legitimately enjoyed 7 through 9. I thought they were well done movies. I thought that they were good presentations. I thought they had interesting storylines and whatever. And so, yes, I think that like age that you're introduced to something, as well as maybe even medium you're introduced to something. Like for me, Batman is and always will be a comic book character. The movie version, don't care, no interest. James Bond, you specifically mentioned James Bond. I've never really sought out James Bond movies. Again, when I was a child, they were played all of the time in syndication on television. And for me, I definitely thought that the Sean Connery version of Bond was much more... he was more suave. He was the version of Bond that I wanted to be. That, I thought, oh, that guy's awesome. And any other Bond I've seen is just kind of whatever. I haven't seen any of the new Bond films. I mean, any Bond film since the 80s I have not seen. I'm just not interested, right? I can't really think. Here's the thing, though. I have recognized that as I have aged, I have become less... I don't plant my flag as often and go, this is my thing and that's how it's going to be. And in fact, I've said this to my children to the point that they mock me for saying it. Like, I fear becoming that guy who goes, this is and always will be the best version of this thing. And I never adapt beyond that. Because I feel like that's a very old person thing to do. To say like, oh, the music these days is absolutely trash. I don't believe that at all. I actually very much enjoy a lot of new music that's coming out. And I try really hard to not plant my flag and say, this is the version. Like, everything else is sucks. But there is, I think there's definitely some sort of comfort in what is your original introduction to something. Like I said, the Keaton film, I didn't necessarily give a shit about Batman in that movie. I was really interested in Nicholson's Joker. Like I thought that his presentation of the Joker was absolutely fantastic because the Joker is usually portrayed as this like hyper weird or hyper skittish person. With a weird, like he takes his destruction to weird levels versus his personality, where I felt like Nicholson's portrayal of the Joker was a good combination. It was like he was dark and disgusting, but also this jovial weirdo, and it worked really well together. So I really liked that version of the Joker. And I think that Phoenix has pulled that together very well himself in his movie, and I am actually interested in seeing the new Joker film. So I get where you're coming from, but man, I fight that urge. Really fight the urge to say my version of the thing is the best version of the thing, because that just to me seems like a very old thing to do. But I will tell you that 80s hockey was vastly superior product to modern day hockey. And I stand by that. But 80s hockey is still alive in the minor leagues. You just have to go 2 steps down. Go see an ECHL game or an IHL game, or, not AHL. You got to go 1 step below that and you'll see 80s hockey, and it's fantastic. It's the best version of hockey that there is. Okay, what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is vapid. It's an adjective meaning dull, void of intellectual curiosity or intelligence, lacking spirit, enthusiasm, dull, routine, or unchallenging. What irked him most about his sister-in-law was her vapid stares in response to simple questions, conversation, and jokes. Vapid. V-A-P-I-D. I love that word. I use that word a lot. But the definition had dull in it twice.